He's gone. He couldn't go all the way.
But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs?
We talking about practice.
You play to win the game.
Playoffs?
It's like taking poison, like rat poison.
It's Division I football. It's the Big 12. It ain't intramurals.
All right. Hey, Jake. What's up? How you doing today?
How's it going? I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah. So we usually just like to kick things off with a little introduction of yourself and kind of what you've done and accomplished coming up to this point.
Sure. So I'm Jake Moody. Grew up in Michigan my whole entire life. Born and raised there. Went to Northville High School, where I played baseball and football. Ultimately went to Michigan to continue my football career. Played there for 5 years, including the COVID season. So thankfully I got that extra year of eligibility. And then after that, I got drafted to the San Francisco 49ers, where I played there for a couple years. Went to Chicago with the Bears for a couple months, and then ended up in Washington, D.C. with the Washington Commanders, which is where I'm at currently. We're kind of in the middle of the OTAs, which is our off-season training cycle. So yeah, just been in Washington, D.C., kind of hanging out, doing a little bit of football stuff, and lots of golf on the off time that I get.
Cool. Just started golf.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's fun.
It's very fun. Are you any good?
I've been playing for 3 months, so starting.
Yeah, so you're still pretty new. It
getting
takes a
lots of
while
good-
to get good.
Yeah, he's getting good feedback from his coach, though, right?
Yeah.
That's good.
Sure.
Yeah. It's good to start early because golf's kind of blowing up now post-COVID. So a lot of people are trying to play it. So it helps way more when you start if you're young rather than if you start when you're older. I have a lot of teammates that are just now trying to start golfing, and it's so much cooler being a better golfer than they are because I started at a younger age. And all of them are trying to figure it out now, and they all stink.
Cool. Well, I'm going to kick us off with our first question. You played in Michigan and won the award for best kicker in college football. What was your time there like?
Good question. I loved my time at Michigan, especially being from Michigan. I grew up about 25 minutes away from Ann Arbor. I grew up a huge Michigan fan. I was actually in a house divided. My mom and my sister ended up going to Michigan State, and my dad went to Michigan, and obviously I ended up going there as well. So we were kind of split perfectly right down the middle. So I was happy that I ended up on the correct side of the rivalry, and being able to play for the school that I rooted for growing up was awesome. And I loved my time there. I had the best coaches, the best teammates, and, it was very nice being close to home as well.
Yeah. Was there ever a coach or a player on that team who was kind of your mentor or one of your best friends?
Yeah, I had a few coaches that I would, credit with kind of being good mentors and, also good friends. I would say the first one being Tyler Brown, who was kind of the specialist coach when I first got there. He was there my first 3 seasons. I owe him a lot. My first 3 years kind of developing into a collegiate kicker from a high school kicker. He made that transition really easy for me, and he really knew what he was talking about. So it was nice to have somebody with a good, set of eyes to kind of help me, watch me and help me develop, being a young guy. And then my last few seasons, our special teams coordinator, Jay Harbaugh, Coach Harbaugh's son, he was awesome to have as a special teams coordinator, because sometimes you don't have a great relationship with your coordinator, and they don't really understand how specialists operate, because kickers and punters and long snappers, the specialists, we're all pretty weird, and we're all very, individualized positions. So, what might work for some football players, like linebackers, corners, safeties, wide receivers, that coaching style doesn't always translate well with the specialists. So it was awesome having a coach that really understood, I can kind of leave these guys alone. They know what they're doing. If needed, I can kind of, jump in and, say a few things, but for the most part, he kind of let us do our thing, and I think it worked out really well.
Yeah, nice. And was there ever a moment that really stood out to you, or just something they did that made you like them a lot or made them a good coach?
Yeah. So with the first coach I mentioned, Tyler Brown, just his knowledge for kicking was pretty unique amongst collegiate coaches. Not a lot of people understand kicking. Kicking is kind of like golf. So, you said you had a golf coach. It's not very common that kickers have a kicking coach on the actual, like on the team. So a lot of guys will have their guy that they go back to, whenever they're back home or during the off season. But to have somebody that's really specialized in that position, in that role, it was very nice to have him there. And then Jay Harbaugh, kind of like I mentioned earlier, he did a very good job of kind of understanding how specialists operate with, not coaching us too much, making sure we're not screwing around. But at the end of the day, we had myself and Brad Robbins in the room, who Brad was a super senior. He did 6 years at Michigan. So, me being a fifth-year guy and him being a sixth-year guy, our long snapper at the time, I believe, was a fourth-year senior. And yeah, we had a pretty old group. So I liked how he kind of just let us do our thing, and he didn't really bother us too much.
Nice. So the 49ers drafted you in the 3rd round. That almost never happens for a kicker. What was draft day like?
It was very weird. Just like you mentioned, it doesn't really happen very often. So I remember it was really late. I think it was probably close to 11:30 on the East Coast back in Michigan. And, my family was getting ready for bed at this point. I wasn't expecting to go that early in the draft, but one person had mentioned, maybe best case scenario could be late 3rd round. So we were watching the TV, watching the draft, but not really expecting anything. And then all of a sudden, my phone started ringing. I looked at the area code and it said San Jose, California. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this real? And then, I looked at the TV, and coming up in a couple picks was San Francisco, and answered the phone call. I'm sure you could find it on the internet somewhere, but had a pretty funny phone call with the general manager and the head coach and the owner. The head coach made a joke about being in the 3rd round. He said, we could have took a running back in the 3rd round, but we ended up taking a kicker. So that was kind of a funny little thing during the call. But yeah, that was a very surreal moment. Obviously very fortunate to have been picked that early. That's pretty cool, and something that I can carry with me the rest of my life. So yeah, it was a pretty cool but surprising day.
Do you remember what pick you got drafted?
Number 99.
Ooh,
So I cracked the top 100 just barely.
so cool.
Nice.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So you hit the game winner against Washington when you were with the Bears, and then the Commanders signed you a few weeks later. What was that like walking into the locker room?
Yeah, it was a little awkward. It's obviously you want to win for whatever team you're playing for, and I think it worked out very well. I think that because I had a good game against Washington, that was kind of like a up close, and personal tryout almost in a sense. So very glad that I did have a good game because I think that's what ended up getting me, picked up by them a few weeks later. There are obviously some people making a joke like, hey, why'd you have to beat us? But, I think, like I said, if I didn't have a good game that game, they probably wouldn't have picked me up. So I think it all worked out, the way that it should have. And very happy that they did pick me up last season.
Who's your closest teammate on the Commanders?
Good question. I would say at the moment, either Tyler Ott, who is the long snapper,
Yeah.
Tress Way, who's the punter, or probably Mikey Sammerstill, just because we were teammates at Michigan for 4 years, I believe.
And Dylan,
Nice.
I went to University of Oklahoma, and Tress Way went to Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Did?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I followed him the whole time he was at school.
Cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Also, I've heard of Tyler. Is he a lineman? Is he
He's
your
a
center?
long snapper.
I thought he was a lineman. I knew he was some sort of. He was either a center or a long snapper.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a long snapper.
Long
You got it.
snapper.
Nice.
Mhm.
And also, is there anyone on your team who stands out as like kind of a leader and the one who kind of leads the charge?
Yeah, there's a bunch of people. I would say Tress is a good leader. He's been on the team for probably, he's probably pushing 12, 13 years at this point. So he's been on the team for a very long time. He was on the team back when it was called the Redskins and then the Washington football team and now the Commanders. So having a guy that's been on the team for that long, it's pretty cool to have a guy like that kind of lead the charge. And then, I mean, I could go on and on. There's, I would say Jeremy Reeves is a good one. We call him Revo. He's a great leader. He's got a great story as well. And then we got Jaden Daniels, obviously, on the offense. Your quarterback's always going to be a good leader. And Marcus Mariota is another good one. He's our backup quarterback at the moment. But, he's obviously a tenured vet, and he's played a long time. He's played for some different teams, so he's got a lot of experience. On defense, I would say Mikey's a pretty big leader, honestly. He's still pretty young, but he kind of leads the defense. And, there's obviously other leaders on the defense as well. But it's cool seeing Mikey kind of step into that leadership role, even being, I think he's going into his 3rd year in the league now. So, yeah, it's really cool to see that.
What about Scary Terry?
Scary Terry, yeah, he's another good leader.
I
Obviously,
like
he's
Scary Terry.
yeah, I like him too. I didn't like him back in college. You can probably guess
What
why.
team was he on?
You
Was he on
probably-
Michigan State?
No, even
He was
worse.
on Scarlet and Gray.
Ohio
Yeah,
State?
yeah.
Ugh,
Mm-hmm.
Our rival.
yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't-
that's all right because now we're
just- it's-
teammates.
It's just crazy because just sometimes it comes up. Like, I just think, like, I just wonder where guys are from college. Like a couple of days ago, I'm like, where did Nick Bosa go to college? Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, where did JSN go to Ohio State? I'm like,
they got a lot of kids coming out of there for sure,
especially receivers.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what's your one moment from your sports career that you'd live over and over again?
Ooh. Honestly, I have too many to choose from, but if I had to pick one, I'd probably say playing in the Super Bowl was really cool.
With the Niners?
Yep, with the Niners. That was my rookie year, so very fortunate to have played in a Super Bowl because I've talked to many people like Trance, for example, who have played in the NFL for 15 years plus, and they've never even come close to a Super Bowl. So very cool to have been able to play in one. Had a pretty good game as well. Had a few 50-plus yard field goals. And
is that a Super Bowl record?
Yeah, at the time it was for about 10 minutes, and then Harrison Butker kicked one longer, so...
Is Harrison Butker the Chiefs?
But, yep, that's who we played against.
You were like, pump yourself up. You're like, you're in your head. You're like, I just kicked the longest in the Super, like, and they're like, well, folks, Harrison Butker's kicked a 60-yard one now. You're like,
mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of stunk. I didn't really know it at the time when I did it. Maybe a few minutes later, somebody came up to me on the sidelines and said, "Hey, did you realize that was the longest Super Bowl field goal ever?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? That's so cool." And then a few minutes later, Harrison Butker goes out there and kicks one 2 yards further. And I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Dagger.
Yeah.
So, how do you prepare yourself for how do you prepare yourself mentally that allows you to perform a big kick?
That's a great question. I would say, first and foremost, I would say this is the most important thing if you want to make it, into the collegiate level or, the professional level, is you have to have a strong mental game, as well as obviously you have to be able to kick the ball pretty good. So I would say for me, what I do is I developed a routine where every single time that I kick a field goal, it's the exact same thing. So no matter if I'm at practice, if I'm by myself, if I have a snapper and a holder, if I'm in a game, if it's short, if it's long, it's the exact same thing every time. So for me, I just focus on my routine and I make sure that I'm doing everything, as perfect as I can, the exact same way every time. And then before you know it, you've already kicked the ball. And then everything kind of comes back to reality and you're like, oh, wow, I just kicked one. That's cool.
Is there any self-talk or mental aspect of that? Or is it just the outward focus on the routine, the consistency of that's almost like kind of moving meditation to get you in a focused state?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the situation. Sometimes I'll, have some sort of positive self-talk. But I like to stay kind of neutral is what I like to say. And I'm not the type of guy to run out there like, I'm going to make this. Like, I don't really focus on the results. I kind of worry more so about the process of the kick itself. So no matter what happens, whether it's the previous kick was good or the previous kick was bad, I'm just focused on the routine and, the process of giving myself the best chance to make the next one. So for me, I can kind of run you through it. It all happens so fast in a game. I think I forget how long the actual, shot clock is or whatever you want to call it. Maybe 40 seconds. So let's say like third down, quarterback throws an incompletion. Coach looks over at you and, puts up the field goal sign. And so you start jogging onto the field. And then once I get to the closer hash, I'll do like a practice swing. And then I'll walk up to where the ball is going to be placed. I look up at the post, kind of see what the wind's doing, take my steps, straight backwards on the line that I want to choose, look down at my toe, make sure that it's pointing exactly down my target line. And I bring my feet together, then take 2 steps to the side on a perfect 90-degree angle. So depending on, if I'm in the middle of the field, my steps are going to be like this. If I'm on this hash, it kind of just switches like this.
Yeah.
So I got to make sure that my steps are super precise. And, I'll take my steps, kind of dig my feet in as I'm looking up at the post one last time, just make sure the wind's still doing what it was before. And then I'll take a deep breath, look at my holder, give him a nod. And then the snap comes very quickly after that. So then I kind of have like I gotta go moment, and kick goes off. That all comes natural at that point. I'm not thinking about anything technique wise or anything. Once the snap comes, you just kind of become an athlete. It's just, second nature at this point. And, after the kick's sailing, through the uprights, then it all kind of comes back to reality, and it's like, oh, look, there's all my teammates around me. It's not just me like in like a trance anymore. So yeah, very, very weird routine. Not sure if any other people do that. I'm sure they do, but that's kind of how I get myself into that same mindset every single time.
Yeah. All right. And for you, or I meant for me, it's also just like staying neutral. It's just like, for example, you can't go and win the NFC conference final and get too high on it and then play the Super Bowl and get absolutely crushed. Or because if you go too high or too low, it's not going to help you, and it's going to affect you in the next game. Just like in kicking, if you're too hyped up and going, I'm going to make this, it could mess up your trance. If you're too low, like whatever, you're not going to care as much, and you're not going to do it right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's kind of why I like to stay neutral, because, I've obviously, if you miss a kick and then you're pouting, or you're not feeling very good about yourself, obviously that's going to affect your kick. But then I've also seen it where I'll make a really good kick, and then I'm so jazzed up about that previous make that I forget to, focus on the next one, and then I end up missing the next one. So that's why I like to say, no matter what, get back to neutral.
Yeah, right. So what's the biggest failure you've had to overcome, and how did you do it?
That's a good question. I would say probably there's probably my rookie year. We were playing in Cleveland, and it was kind of rainy, cold, windy day. We weren't really scoring anything on offense. It was a low scoring game, and it came down to the very end of the game. We were losing by 2 points, I think. And it was, a last second field goal. If I make it, we win. If I miss it, we lose. And I ended up missing that kick because I wasn't in that same routine. I was thinking about all the other variables that don't really matter in that moment, rather than just focusing on the actual kick itself. So for me, that was obviously a really tough loss. Got a lot of people saying bad things about me, and, I had to kind of learn to overcome that. And, you got a game the next week. So you can't dwell on it for too long. You got to move on to the next game. And in the next game, I think I made a 55-yarder. So that was cool as kind of like a bounce back kick. And then I think the rest of the regular season, I'm pretty sure I didn't really miss a field goal until maybe the very last week. So I think I went maybe 10 or 11 weeks making every single kick. So that was pretty cool as like a nice little bounce back. But yeah, I would say without that failure, I wouldn't have learned, to focus on a routine and, being in that situation, even though it was a bad result, I think it was a good learning experience for the future, being in that result or being in that kind of situation again. Honestly, the kick with Chicago against Washington was a very similar situation. I think we were down 2 points. It was kind of rainy. It was about the same distance of a kick. And having been in that situation before, it was, good to know what I need to focus on, what I need to do, and I was able to execute it well. So, obviously, failure's it's not fun, but you can either learn from it or, you can run from it, I guess, the rest of your life. So I chose to try to learn from it.
Nice. And before that kick, did you always before you kicked that ball in Cleveland? Wait, were you playing the Bengals?
No, the Browns.
No, it was the Browns. Yep.
I don't know why I said Bengals. They're both in Ohio.
Yeah.
It's just Cincinnati. I was gonna say, before that kick, were there any other kicks that you might have been in the same situation but chose to run from?
There was one tough game I had at Michigan. It was my junior year during the COVID season. It was the very first game of the year. I missed 3 field goals in that game. It was freezing cold out. Not ideal conditions for trying to kick, but missed the first kick, and then second kick thought I'd hit it well, and the wind just kind of drifted it outside the posts. And then the third kick, I'm never one to try to blame the snapper or the holder, but the third kick, the ball was not snapped very well. It was laying sideways and ended up missing the third kick. So that was kind of like, oh my gosh, I just wanted to make one kick this game. So that one stung. That was probably the lowest of the lows in college. I didn't really want to think about it. Didn't really want to try to learn from it. I just kind of wanted to, flush it out of my memory and never think about that game ever again. Whether it was for better or for worse, didn't really have a game like that the rest of my college career. So I guess that was good, but I guess that was an instance where maybe, I could have tried to learn from it, but instead I just kind of tried to forget about it.
Yeah, definitely. So the 49ers is my favorite team, and Christian McCaffrey is my favorite player. What is he like behind the scenes, and would you be open to making an introduction?
Christian he's pretty chill, kind of does his own thing. He's a good guy, but he's very, focused on what he has to do. While the whole team's warming up, he's kind of overdoing his own warm up. because, he knows his body so well and he's got his routine so dialed in that, he does everything kind of on his own. And, like, great teammate. I can't say anything bad about him at all. Obviously, he's a really good player as well. He's fun to watch. But as far as an introduction, I'm going to be honest, I don't think I have his phone number or anything like that. I wish I could set that up. That'd be pretty cool, but I don't really know if I have any way of contacting him, but I can try. We'll see.
All right.
Well,
and I was going to ask, how would you say his energy is compared to George Kittle?
Kittle definitely has a lot more energy. I think you can see that on the TV and stuff, but very, very different personalities, but they mesh well, inside the building, outside the building. George is, the crazy kind of funny guy, and Christian's the more relaxed, like kind of quiet, chill dude. So the two of them together, they work pretty well. And obviously George is awesome. Can't say anything, bad about George. Like, he's one of the coolest teammates I've ever played with. So having played with them both for a couple years was really cool.
Yeah, nice. So if you were going to give a 9-year-old Jake life advice, what would you tell him?
You're really hitting me with the hard-hitting questions today.
This is hard-hitting journalism.
Yeah, that's good. I think I would tell 9-year-old Jake to just kind of have fun doing whatever you're doing, not take everything so seriously, because I remember back when I was trying to, kick in college, back when I was in high school and even in middle school, I was focusing so much time and energy on kicking, and, maybe wish I had a little more fun instead of just kind of being so serious all the time, and, just kind of lighten up and not be such a, I don't know, not boring guy, but I don't know. That just might be my personality, but I would just tell myself to have fun, and especially back being 9 years old, those are like the best days ever. So enjoy it while you can. That's my advice.
Yeah. It seems to me that your focus on the craft of kicking, how would you, obviously that focus carried you a long way and into a professional career. How would you balance the fun with the focus?
Good question. I think there's always a time and a place for everything. And, when it comes time to go to football practice and go to meetings and whatever, that's the time to focus, and that's the time to be 100% locked in. But even now, like, there'll be days that I get home and all I can think about were my kicks from practice earlier. And sometimes I forget that I have a life outside of football. Like, football, even if I have a long, fun career of 15 plus years, hopefully I'll still live for another 50 years after that. So, at the end of the day, it's a job, and it's just something that I do. It's not, who I am necessarily. Obviously, you want to focus on it and give it everything you got, but at the same time, if all you can think about is football and all that kind of stuff, it's not going to be as fun, not going to be as enjoyable. You're not going to really enjoy life, outside of football if all you're thinking about is football. So I think that's something that I've also kind of been trying to balance right now. Like I said, I like to go golf, and another hobby that I picked up was disc golf. That's
Oh, yeah, I like disc golf.
Frisbee golf. Yeah, it's pretty fun. So I just like getting outside and still kind of doing, kind of competitive, sport kind of stuff, just to kind of get those juices flowing, but doing it without having to think about football, I guess. So that's something that I do, in my free time to kind of take my mind off football, but still kind of make myself happy and get those competitive juices flowing.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Well, Jake, we sure appreciate, like Dylan said, creating some time for us, talk a little bit about your career, some of your thought process to approaching the craft of kicking, sharing your experience at Michigan and your time in the league. This is awesome. Dylan and I have had so much fun doing this podcast. It's been a great connection piece for the both of us to kind of build something together. And it's been a great tool for Dylan. He gets all these little, mini mentoring sessions where he's getting life advice from people who performed at such a high level. So we just want to extend a lot of gratitude and appreciation for your time and sharing your experience with us.
Yeah, of course. Happy to do it. Thanks for having me on. You had some great questions, so I really appreciate you making me work hard for those ones, but I had a great time as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Yep.
Bye.
He's gone. He couldn't go all the way.
But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs?
We talking about practice.
You play to win the game.
Playoffs?
It's like taking poison, like rat poison.
It's the